When I was about 10, my granddad took me fishing off the breakwater in Folkestone Harbour, and we caught quite a good selection. My mum cooked them, but the fishing bug never really bit me. I preferred to be running about, but as time went by I developed doubts about those hooks and the poor lugworms that were skewered on them. When Jesus talked about fishers of men in the Gospel, first time round, it gave me some bad vibes. And the reason was the nature of fishing. There's deception. You hide the hook in the bait, or you disguise the hook as a tasty, juicy fly. And then there is the violence. Quite apart from a barbed hook in the mouth, there is the priest, a fisherman's cosh that administers the last rites, which is a lethal blow to the head. And also human beings can have fun, or human beings can eat. The fish don't get to choose. This is a fishing story. Fishing stories are legendary for tallish tales, including the one that got away. We know how to read a fisherman's story. Well, just being in the Bible doesn't stop this one from being a fisherman's story. And I've no doubt that Peter could tell tales of his fishing exploits as a way of making Christian points. But the point of this story is that when Peter, Simon, did what he chose, without Jesus, he got nowhere. When he did as Jesus told him to, he got better results than he could ever have imagined. He saw and experienced the mind-blowing generosity of God firsthand. John tells a similar story at the end of his Gospel. So let's not be too sceptical. But now I need to go into the Old Testament reading from Isaiah. Isaiah's vision is sometimes used to make people feel they have to volunteer. God says, "Who will go for us? Whom shall I send?" And Isaiah says, I'll go. Send me. That sounds really nice. But his vision of God starts with his reaction. And he says, "Woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell among a people of unclean lips." When Isaiah saw God properly, he saw himself properly. The same applied to Simon Peter. And no doubt the same applies to us. When Peter had heard Jesus before, he'd seen him heal people. He'd even seen him heal Peter's own mother-in-law. But now Jesus has done something in Peter's own speciality. The builder has done better than the fisherman. And he blubbers, "Get away from me, sir. I'm a sinful man." It's as if Peter's sinfulness makes him feel unfit to be anywhere near Jesus. Jesus makes him feel useless. And Jesus' next sentence comes in two parts, and both matter. He says, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll catch people." Peter's like Isaiah. He recognizes that he can't get things right. He deserves to be judged. But just as Isaiah's lips are cauterized and purified, so Peter's fear is addressed, and he can move beyond it. From now on, things will be different. In a moment, I'll reach the second part of what Jesus said. But first, understand that the first part speaks to us too. don't be afraid appears 7 times in Luke's Gospel alone. Jesus doesn't say to Peter, yes, you're lost in your sin. He says, don't be afraid. He doesn't say, you call yourself a fisherman and you can't catch a sprat in perfect conditions. He says, don't be afraid. God is more than able to deal with your inadequacy, your incompetence and your impurity. Don't let your past obstruct your doing what God asks of you. And doing what asks of you, of us, is fishing for people. I don't know much New Testament Greek, but I learned a new word as I researched this story, zogron. It's a military word about capturing alive. It means capturing enemy soldiers rather than killing them. The ancient world's armies would massacre their defeated enemies. Capturing someone alive implied restoring life to someone under the expectation of instant death. Jeremiah prophesied that God would send fishers of men to take the Judeans into exile. And the point is, they were taking the Judeans into a place where God wanted them to be, which at the time was Babylon, because of their sins, and they had to learn who God was. So Peter is to bring people into a kind of life-giving captivity. Peter is to be God's agent in restoring life to people. Like Isaiah, Peter is to speak from his own experience of forgiveness and cleansing, and that is our challenge too. More than that, it's our privilege. It starts with realizing 2 things. First, we need to see ourselves as we are, useless without God. And then we need to understand how much God cares for us and what he wants from us. And then we have to hear his voice. Don't be afraid.